Hello and welcome back to the Minnesotan Sports Podcast. My name is Connor Philippi, and I don't know about you, but man, I feel like this NFL season has already gone by so quickly. It's already week 4, which week 4 starts tonight. I'll be uploading this video tonight on Thursday night, and hopefully it comes out like before the Dolphins-Bengals game is half over. You're going to have to just take my word for it that this is being recorded before the game started. But if you don't take my word for it, I won't blame you. But this is going to be breaking down every single NFL game and predicting every single game that's going to happen. And a lot of exciting matchups this week, a lot of cool locations with the Vikings playing in London. And I will do a full breakdown, just kind of going over more specifically what I think will be the keys in the Vikings at Saints, or technically at Saints, but it's in London. So make sure you watch that video. That will be coming out hopefully either tomorrow or as early as possible. Okay, I'm just going to start over. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome back to... Okay. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Hello to the pessimistic, optimistic, and everyone in between. Welcome back to the Minnesotan Sports Podcast. My name is Connor Philippi, and it just seems so far like the NFL season, it happens every single year, but it feels like it just has gone by so fast already. We're already into week 4, and today's video will be all about breaking down every single game of week 4 and making my full predictions, and again, writing them all down on the spreadsheet to hold myself accountable. Right now, I'm at least sitting over 500, and I'm doing pretty well on picks by my standards so far. Usually these first few weeks aren't quite as bad as far as, or are a lot worse, or look a lot worse, because there's so many things that are left unanswered going into the regular season. So hopefully my predictions become more and more correct with the percentage going up as the season goes along. But anyway, if you're getting to this video and you see, hey, this video was uploaded after the Dolphins-Bengals game started, you're just going to have to take my word for it. Okay, I'm recording it like about a half hour before it started. By the time it comes out, it'll definitely be during the game. But you'll have to take my word for it that I made that prediction during the game, or made that prediction before the game started. But anyway, you can take that or not. I just hope you will. But also keep in mind the Vikings-Saints game I will be breaking down a lot more in detail in a video that's hopefully coming out either tomorrow or as early as possible on Saturday. I'll be just kind of going over the keys to victory and just the very specific kind of things about each team to watch out for as the Vikings look to improve to 3-1. I will predict that, though, in this video. I'll predict the outcome of that one, just not as in depth. So, like I mentioned the last few weeks, unfortunately I didn't make predictions last week, but the first 2 weeks anyway. I hold myself to every single one of these predictions. I put them down on a Google Doc, and then the following week I go through all of them and kind of talk about what I got wrong in my breakdown of the week on usually Tuesday. So we're going to just go through all of these, and what will be predicted will be set in stone, and there's nothing I can do to change it. So, happening tonight, Dolphins at Bengals. First of all, the Bengals color rush uniforms with the full white, especially with the end zones being turned to white. I mean, I saw the videos and pictures on Instagram this morning, and they looked phenomenal. It has nothing to do with the game, but it's going to be at least an aesthetically pleasing game to watch, that's for sure. But will the Bengals be aesthetically pleasing to watch? I don't know, because the Dolphins have been very good defensively so far. Obviously, you have to take the game against the Ravens with a grain of salt, because Lamar Jackson's insane, and the Baltimore offense has that way of putting up big points against any defense, and you have to have good offense to counter that, and the Dolphins sure did. As far as the Bengals go, it's all going to come back down to this offensive line every single time. Joe Burrow didn't magically just start limiting his production from the amazing season he had last year. There had to be a reason, and that reason was the offensive line. Just like last year, but to a worse degree somehow, he's running for his life, and the Bengals are going to have to shore up that offensive line or instill something in these guys or do something if they're going to fix this. That being said, even with a rough offensive line, Joe Burrow I still believe to lead this team and get more wins this season than just a 1-2 start is going to signify. I think that Jamar Chase is going to have a lot more of a resurgence. He's too good to slump like this. I know sophomore slump can happen, but I don't believe that it'll happen for that good of a wide receiver. And this Bengals wide receiver room just in general is really stacked. So I believe in someone to step up, and Joe Mixon's been playing well as well. Had kind of a slow week last week, but as far as my prediction goes, I'm going to give this one to the Dolphins. It's one of those situations where they just seem to be cooking. I believe they're 11-2 or 11-1 or something. I think that it's 11-1 since like week 9 of last season, if I remember seeing that correctly. So they're just a hot team, and you got to ride the hot hand, especially with the Bengals kind of looking not like the Bengals so far in this first few weeks. They aren't looking like the Bengals we saw last season right now, and I do believe they'll turn it around, but I don't think the Dolphins is the team that's going to set you up to be able to do that quite yet. So I will go with Dolphins over the Bengals. And now we got the Vikings technically at the Saints at Tottenham Stadium in London. And this is one I'm not going to get into too much here because I'll be breaking it down so much. But I do believe the Vikings will get this win. I think that our pass rush will have a resurgence against Jameis Winston and this offensive line. Jameis Winston is hurt. Dang it. Sorry. You know how you go on ESPN and you get all those ads that just start popping up everywhere and like you don't even know where the sound's coming from? That just happened to me. Anyway, I believe that with Jameis Winston hurt, and you never want to see a guy hurt, but just got to tell it like it is. Jameis Winston will be hurt, and it will affect him, and I think it'll play to the Vikings' advantage. And even without him being hurt, Jameis Winston is not a mobile quarterback, which is something that the Vikings can deal with. It's the mobile quarterbacks that get us, but we should be able to corral Winston and get him enough pressure where he can start making some bad decisions. He's already, again, started to look like the Jameis that we saw in Tampa Bay, where he's been throwing more interceptions than touchdowns so far this season. So I think that we can, as a defense, if our pass rush can hold up, it can force some bad turnovers. The one thing I am very concerned about, though, is Alvin Kamara. But I'm hoping that if our offense can be firing on all cylinders, we can get this win. And again, with Jameis 100%, maybe it'll be a little closer, but I feel pretty confident about this win, as confident as a Vikings fan can be. Browns at Falcons. I hate to say it, but I think I'm going to have to go with the Browns. I've been rooting against them all season, but I think they're going to get out to a 3-1 start. The season, or the schedule this season so far has been favorable for them. Nick Chubb, I think, is just going to run all over the Falcons. I mean, the Browns so far this year seem to be built to at least take down the bad teams and get wins against the bad teams. Of course, they did lose that game to the Jets. But running the ball, I think, is going to just propel them past the Falcons. I don't even think Brissett's going to have to do very much. The Falcons seem to just be getting gashed left and right on the defensive side of the ball. And, I mean, you never know when they're going to choke next. So give me the Browns in that one. Commanders at Cowboys. It would have been kind of a toss-up until I saw the Cowboys beat the Giants and kind of take that crazy start to the season for the Giants kind of down a notch. And it kind of still reminded me that the Cowboys are still a decent team. Even without Dak Prescott, they should be able to take care of these Commanders. Carson Wentz just is not playing well enough, I don't think. And Terry McLaurin was supposed to have this, evolution this season, and he's been playing pretty well. He's been averaging about 80 yards a game, but only one touchdown, and I don't think he's going to be able to do enough in this one. And also, honestly, the Commanders' defense has been not playing quite as well as I would have thought, and I think that they're going to have to play a lot better to take down the Cowboys, especially with that Pollard and Elliott duo playing so well. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys in this one. And again, as much as I want to see another Stephen A. Smith laughing fit on Instagram, I got to go with the Cowboys on that one. Seahawks at the Lions. I believe in the Lions so much that I'm going to pick them against the Seahawks. I think this will be a close game, and I think it'll be a very high-scoring game. Geno Smith has been playing very well, and obviously the Lions have been putting up a lot of points every single game. Dan Campbell was one better decision away from beating the Vikings, and they would be 2-1 right now with a chance to go 3-1. So I think this week is a very favorable bounce-back week for the Lions, who are looking to stay around 500 for as long as they possibly can this season, which would be really good for just kind of the progression of this team. Always wanting to see more wins on the board, even if it doesn't mean you're going to make the playoffs this year. Every single time you add a win, it shows that your rebuild process is actually working, and I think that's going to happen this week for the Lions. I expect another big game for Amon-Ra St. Brown. The Seahawks really don't have much to stand on besides Geno Smith. And, of course, DK Metcalf. Titans at Colts. This one would have been a lot easier of a decision to make last week. But then the Colts came in and defeated the Kansas City Chiefs. And I will say that if I had to choose between that being a fluke and not being a fluke, I would still say fluke. But with the Titans struggling as much as they have this season, they did get the win last week, but they got absolutely destroyed by the Bills. I'm still going to go with the Titans on this one. I do believe that the Colts game against the Chiefs last week was a little more of a fluke, but this game should be closer than previously someone would have thought. Also, what the heck is up with the AFC South? It has become the new NFC East of, was it 2020? It's quite possible that whoever ends up coming up ahead of that division will be right around 500. And I still think that it's possible the Titans have a resurgence and come back and start kind of playing like the team they were last year. But it's also very possible that very few teams come out of this division above 500. It'll most likely only be one team that rises up above 500. Bears at Giants. I'm going to go with the Giants on this one. We're seeing kind of a resurgence of Saquon Barkley, which is great to see after everything he's been through. The Bears are rough. Their offense, Justin Fields has thrown for over 150 yards, maybe a couple games in his career so far, in his 2-year career, including these 3 games. So, they're going to have to eventually throw the football if they want to keep winning games, and I think they're the worst 2-1 team in the league easily right now. I think that if they would have played any decent teams, besides, of course, the 49ers, who were playing in a monsoon, so that doesn't really count, but give the Bears any decent team and decent weather, and they're going to get crushed. And I think the Giants are a decent team. I wouldn't put them as a playoff team yet, but I think they'll at least get it done at home against a Bears team that can't throw the football for the life of them. If they can even slightly stop the run against the Bears, they're going to be fine. So the Giants in that one. Jaguars at the Eagles. A very impressive performance by the Jags last week, taking down, they played the Chargers, and not just taking them down, absolutely destroying the Chargers. They had a really rough week last week. Justin Herbert was knocked around a lot. But still, I think the Eagles are playing like one of the better teams in football right now. I can't root against or can't pick against them right now. They absolutely manhandled my Vikings, and they have not given much ground to any team this year. They did kind of cut it kind of close against the Lions, but I think Jalen Hurts has been playing out of his mind so far. Already 916 yards and 4 TDs in his 3 starts. And A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are also coming into their own as well. So give me the Eagles in that matchup, and I think it's going to be a good week. Besides the Commanders, it'll be a good week for the NFC East. And it actually might be kind of a decent battle going into kind of the first part of the season, kind of getting into the midway part. Jets at Steelers. This is a really tough one because the Steelers were looking like at least a decent team, a team that can maybe win 7 games, maybe 8, until TJ Watt got hurt. And now I don't trust him hardly at all. Mitch Trubisky, I would say if Mitch Trubisky struggles enough where the Jets stay in this game the whole way through, that might be the turning point that ends up getting them to start Kenny Pickett. But we'll have to see. If Trubisky struggles in this game and they still don't trot out Pickett, it means that they are fully committed to keeping him, rested and and learning behind a veteran all year long, and that they don't see themselves going very far. Obviously, it'll depend on the running game with Najee Harris. Can the Jets get Garrett Wilson going? But at the end of the day, I'm going to go with the Jets here. I think this is going to be a big wake-up call kind of loss for the Steelers, saying, we can't just count on the defense and TJ Watt all the time. Mitch Trubisky, we have to make a decision about him. This will be a big wake-up game that'll really hit home for the Steelers team, and they'll fall to the Jets. It looks like it will be, why can't I remember his name all of a sudden? Zach Wilson, sorry. Zach Wilson will start this game, so we'll have to see how he starts. He might be a little bit rusty out of the gate, so we'll have to see how that goes. Now the marquee matchup of the week, Bills at Ravens. This is going to be the toughest one of the week, I think, to predict. Got a Bills team coming off of a really tough loss against the Dolphins, a really frustrating way for that game to end, especially for the offensive coordinator. If you haven't watched that video, you definitely should. It's funny. The offensive coordinator for the Bills has an absolute conniption after the offense doesn't run out of bounds and ends up costing them the game. But that was a funny video. Anyway, the Ravens have also been playing some phenomenal football. Lamar Jackson on another level, like always, especially running the ball. He's leading the team by far in carries so far. But I am thinking it's possible that this Bills team might be one of the only teams that can contain Lamar Jackson to a degree, and that might end up playing to the Bills' favor. Very few defensive lines and defenses in general can figure out Lamar Jackson. If any team's going to do it, it's going to be the Bills, and so for that reason, I have to at least pick them for this week, although it really could go either way. I see the Ravens as a legitimate threat to the Bills in the AFC, but I'll go with the Bills on this one because I still believe in them after how crazy they were playing the first couple weeks, and the Dolphins are still a really good team, and they almost beat them, so I still see the Bills as the best team in the league right now, and so I picked them. Chargers, I can't think of a better way for them to bounce back from the loss they had last week than to play against the poor Houston Texans. They're going to get the absolute brunt of this offense, and they're going to be frustrated. They were going to want to make a statement blowout win coming off of their really rough game against the Jags. And I say Herbert goes crazy as long as he's feeling well enough, and I think the Chargers can just run the ball and still win this game. Of course, we did say that about the Jaguars too, but I think that's going to be their one mistake game of the year, and they're going to really stick it to every rough team that they play all season long after that. So give me the Chargers easily in that one. That should be an absolute rout of the Houston Texans. Now moving on to the Cardinals at the Panthers, and this is a win I think that will go to the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals still have a lot to figure out on the offensive side of the ball, and their defense also hasn't been looking great either, but Kyler Murray just seems to have absolutely no, consistency and chemistry with this wide receiver core. They are missing a lot of guys, and it's a lot of rookies, young guys, and just not the best wide receiver room for them. However, the Panthers, besides Christian McCaffrey, of course, have not been playing their best football, and Baker Mayfield is really not having the revenge season that he was probably hoping for so far. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals. If they lose this game, then the Cardinals are going to have a whole new meaning to me. I will look at them in a completely different light, and I think Week 4 happens a lot that way, where you want to give them one more chance. Teams that don't have a lot of stuff going for them so far, that you want to give an extra chance and see. And if they really don't play well in Week 4 and fall like 1-3 or something, you can start making some assumptions about those teams. And speaking of which, we'll go to the Broncos at the Raiders. Speaking of the Broncos are that team, again, another team this week that I want to give one more chance to show me that it was just a few weeks that were rough with learning the new offense, and the rapport between Russell Wilson and the wide receivers need to be fixed, and all these different things. The defenses look phenomenal, but this offense really needs to work things out. However, the Raiders have looked even more off. Josh Jacobs and this running back core have not been playing well, and they need to establish the run in these games if they're going to come away with some wins. And one of these two teams is going to, get a much-needed win here, and I think it'll be the Broncos. It's crazy to think that it's possible the Raiders would be 0-4 when you watched the beginning of the season and you thought, hey, they played pretty well against the Chargers. Never would have expected them to go 0-4. But sure enough, it could possibly happen, and I have that happening in my predictions. Patriots at Packers, the Packers coming off of a game where if the Buccaneers had actually played to the degree that they would usually play against any other team, the Packers would be 1-2 right now. But like I did a whole rant in my last video talking about how the Packers always seem to get the worst of every single team they play. But that's besides the point. The past is the past. And I think they're going to really stick it to the Patriots here. Mac Jones really not playing very good football so far. He has a lack of consistency, and he has been hurt a lot, and he is dealing with an injury this week too. We'll have to see how that works out. Currently, Nelson Aguilar leading the Patriots in receiving yards with 179 over 3 games, which just says a lot about how the Patriots offense has been doing lately. And I think the Packers should be able to feast on this offense, and it should be a pretty easy win for them, especially at home. So I'll go Packers on that one. And I'm feeling pretty good about these predictions so far. A few of them that could skew either way, but we're going to have to see. And then finally, we have the last 2 games, the primetime matchups, starting with the Chiefs at the Buccaneers, which for a while, the contingency plan was for the Chiefs and Buccaneers to potentially go to US Bank Stadium and play there, in which case I would be rushing to the ticket booth to try and get my free tickets, which they would most likely do like they usually do to try and fill stadiums when it was an unexpected change. It's what they did in Detroit when the Vikings had that roof collapse thing and they moved to Detroit to play the game on Tuesday or Wednesday or whenever that was, and there were free tickets. Anyway, that's what I would have done if they would have been in Minnesota. But it looks like the hurricane thankfully did not affect Tampa Bay quite as brutally as they would have thought. And again, hopefully the cleanup and everything is going well as people deal with all the fallout of that hurricane, and I wish everyone down there well. I think there's a lot of people in Minnesota that have a lot of relatives and everything that go down there, at least for these months. And so hopefully everyone is okay. I know I'm sure there are some people that are not okay, and I will be thinking about them. But looks like they still will play in Tampa Bay. That being said, regardless of where they play, I have the Chiefs here. The Buccaneers are still not 100%, and after seeing the way that they played against the Packers last week, I have a lot more confidence right now in the Chiefs' offense. Travis Kelce should have a good game here, and Patrick Mahomes has been playing the way you'd expect all week long so far. And then we have the Rams at the 49ers in the Monday night matchup, just to finish all of this off. So this is another one where we haven't quite seen the Rams of last year yet, but even so, they've still been winning or playing well enough to win 2 out of 3 games so far. So I would still pick the Rams here. I think the 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo are kind of struggling a little bit. I know that they figured it out with him last year, and obviously Jimmy Garoppolo came in with Trey Lance hurt and just had to figure a whole lot of things out. So you still got to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. But either the 49ers are going to be rough with them all year long, or it's still going to affect them this week regardless. So I'm going to go with the Rams in this final matchup, and I will hold myself to all these predictions on Tuesday when I go over all these games and their results. And again, like I said, I'm going to be breaking down every single key aspect of the Vikings game in London against the Saints, and that video should hopefully come out tomorrow or early Saturday. So thanks for watching this one. Fingers crossed that all my matchups end up getting predicted correctly, and I'll see you on the flip side.